Hey folks, welcome to our monthly edition of NSFC Update. I'm your host Nick Iandolo, and I'm going to give you the quick and dirty skinny on the current sci-fi fantasy flicks out there right now, whatever else is happening. So if you can't wait for the next Nick Sci-Fi Corner, the NSFC Update will give you your sci-fi fix. Let's start with Ender's Game, a reasonably good adaptation of Orson Scott Card's seminal sci-fi classic.
Yeah, I hate to give this puppy a yellow sun, but I gotta.
The problem with this movie is not its stellar cast. Harrison Ford as Colonel Graff, Ben Kingsley as Mason Rackham, Asa Butterfield as Ender Wiggin, Viola Davis as Major Gwen Anderson, and especially Haley Steinfeld as Petra Arcanian, all put in top-notch performances. And the effects are, of course, no less than eye-popping as you would expect from this day and age of CGI wizardry. Now, my beef with this flick is that I came away from the theater thinking that I've just been rushed through an amusement park ride with no time to really take it all in. What I mean by that is that this movie rushes from one set piece to another, such as Ender going from battle school to command school in a matter of months instead of years. Also, many of the battles in the battle room from the book were either truncated, combined, or ignored altogether. You never get a sense of Ender's strategic and tactical brilliance because we're too busy blowing through the best parts of the book. And then when we get to command school, the same goes for the simulated battles. Now, I understand that there's only so much time in a 2-hour movie to get all the stuff in, and compromises have to be made, but I don't think that's where Gavin Hood, the director, should have made them. And the same goes for completely ignoring the subplot about Ender's brother Peter and his sister Valentine. All the events revolving around them are totally blown off. You get no sense as to why Peter is such a danger to Ender and the world, and really why Valentine is Ender's saving grace and, in some ways, a rather incestuous love interest for him as implied by the book. Also, the twist ending turned out not to be too surprising because the gravitas of Ender's plight got largely overlooked. Ender's life is far more bleak and violent, and this movie seems to soften that up in order to appeal to a much wider audience. Big mistake if you ask me. This movie should have been either 2 movies or at the very least a 3-hour film. Oh, and on a side note, looks like the whole LGBT controversy with the film has little or no impact with its financial success. That's because there is none. The film sadly tanked at the box office because of a poor script adaptation and a dumbing down of the gritty and violent world that the characters are supposed to inhabit. I don't think you'll be seeing Speaker for the Dead anytime soon or ever. Now, on the other hand, Thor the Dark World totally rocks. This easily gets a red giant, baby. Why? Let's start with the fact that this is almost a direct sequel to the Avengers. Really, the events that take place in this film come on the heels of what happened in that epic team-up flick. Loki is brought before Odin and handed a huge prison sentence. Thor pines for Jane Foster, who's back on Earth, and there's even some Captain America nods happening here, especially if you see the 3D version. There's an awesome 5-minute preview of Captain America the Winter Soldier that happens before Thor 2 gets underway, including the whole elevator fight scene. But back to Thor himself. His character has really grown, his and Loki's. In fact, Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston, Thor and Loki respectively, own these roles, and everybody in it is great. Anthony Hopkins is Odin as far as I'm concerned. Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, Stellan Skarsgård as Eric Selvig, Idris Elba as Heimdall, Rene Russo as Frigga, the Ninth Doctor there, Christopher Eccleston as Malekith, and the beguiling Kat Dennings as Darcy Lewis. Plus, all the others really make the show. There's tons and tons of action in this flick that blows Thor 1 out of the water. The attack by the Dark Elves on Asgard alone is worth the price of admission. But what's truly remarkable about this film is not its spectacle, which is great, by the way. It is his heart. The tension between Thor and Loki is really what you should pay attention to here. There is a sadness on both their parts, as they were once brothers, and deep down inside they want to be again, but cannot after all that's happened. You can really feel for both, especially after certain pivotal moments in the film. The only reason why I'm not giving this a supernova is that there is some campiness to it that seems a bit out of place in a movie with so much seriousness going on. Also, one of the post-credit scenes really didn't work for me, as I felt that it looked a really low budget, like an afterthought. I'll leave you to figure out which one. Overall, great follow-up to both Thor and the Avengers. If only Iron Man 3 could have been so good. And finally, just a couple of quick mentions for your benefit. The next episode of Nick's Sci-Fi Corner is now in full production. I'm calling it issue number 2, Aliens with Benefits. Look for it in January of 2014. It's going to be packed with all kinds of fun and crazy surprises, so stay tuned. Also, we're working on a new mini program for Dedham Television's learning channel called I've Got a Book for You. I'll be discussing Tolkien's The Hobbit in the first episode. This program will be geared for younger folks, so expect some cute props, illustrations, animations, and overall silliness. As a parent myself, I can say that this show will be a great way for kids to get into reading stories that truly foster their imagination and creativity. Well, that's all I have time for on this quickie edition of NSFC Update. See you soon on the big show. Ha ha!